Okay, so Cloud Atlas is a novel written by David Mitchell and published in the early 2000s, specifically 2004. It was turned into a movie in the early 2010s, specifically in 2012. The movie stars Tom Hanks and Halle Berry, and it mirrors the six stories in the book. So in the book, it's split up into two sections. Um, this part is kind of a spoiler. It's split up into two sections. Each of the six stories are split up into halves. And we read the first half of all six and then the second half. And it was a really interesting way to read the story because the each story would cut off right in the middle, and then we'd move on to the next one. The six stories are per Wikipedia. The first one is the Pacific Journal of Adam Ewing. So we find a man in the Chatham Islands, kind of New Zealand area in the 1800s and his experience there. Second one is letters from Zedelhem. Zedelhem.
Needleham? Yeah, I think so. Close enough.
It's set in Belgium in the 1930s before World War II. It follows a musician, composer, and his teacher. Not teacher, I don't know what you would say. He works for a guy,
His mentor.
mentor. The third story is called Half-Lives, the first Louisa Ray mystery. This was a action-packed story set in the 70s in California, and it involves nuclear power, assassinations, you know, cool stuff. The fourth story is The Ghastly Ordeal of Timothy Cavendish. This is, I think it's set in like the 2010s or 2000s. It follows,
Yeah.
yeah, it follows a publisher in Britain, and he ends up kind of a prisoner at a retirement home, I think is the best way to say it. So these were all the first four stories were all you know, present or past essentially. I guess since it was published in 2004, even this one might have been the most contemporary one. The last two are in the future. First one is an orison of Sonmi 451. An orison is a future piece of technology. This follows kind of a dystopian future set in Korea or that area in the future. And then finally, the last story is Slusha's Crossin' and Everything After, with a lot of accents, kind of hard to read, a little hard to follow dialogue in the movie.
But super interesting.
Very interesting. This one was set in Hawaii or thereabouts, but this is like way in the future, but it seems more primitive. So it seems like it's after some kind of nuclear fallout or, the world's gone down. There's nothing left.
Yeah, post-apocalyptic world. And like what I really liked about that one, even though it made it really hard to read, I had never even considered like any other media where it's like post-apocalyptic. The language doesn't change, but here the language had continued to evolve and like deteriorate because like essentially they're no longer there's no more schools, the infrastructure for that doesn't exist. So I thought that was a really neat tidbit in the story to kind of drop that in.
Yeah, it sounds very like American South,
Yeah,
kind of the
very
way they
rednecky.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that story is people live on an island and they meet these people who are more kind of high tech. And then that's probably the story that's kind of hardest to describe for me. But also it has, in my opinion, one of the most legendary villains, Old Georgie. So these are the six stories. Um, in the movie, it's kind of the first director's choice, I guess, or editing choice was to intertwine them. I thought in the beginning of the movie, before they show the title sequence, they really skimmed through all six very quickly, and it felt very quick and a bit too much.
Yeah.
But then once the sequence came in, it slowed down and kind of worked through changing from one story to the next. Not exactly in order either.
Yeah, I don't. So I'm really torn on it. I thought it was a great choice from the perspective of my biggest problem with the book was that I felt like the stories weren't connected enough. Right? Maybe there's like some theme in there that I'm not smart enough to dissect. That's like, oh, actually, all the characters have the same like character trait, or like I don't know. I didn't pick up on any of that, so like it just felt to me like in the book, like it was like, okay, here is six neat stories with like a tiny thread connecting them. That's how I felt. But like the movie for me solved that issue, right? So that was my biggest issue with the book. I'm not saying I didn't like the book. I actually thought it was quite a good book, but the movie solved that in a way.
Mhm.
I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of stories got butchered, but like at least I felt a lot more connected. Like the way they would weave the scenes together, where it's like, okay, the transition from one character to another, and you see them in a similar situation. I thought that was very interesting. I really like that.
Yeah, I agree with that part where they switch between stories where the characters were kind of facing the same situation. So for example, there's a bit in the Sonmi story where she's escaping with the dude
Hmm.
and they switched from that to another one where someone was trying to escape.
The old people, right?
Yeah, the Timothy Cavendish story. I think they were making the getaway.
Yeah,
Um, the hard part about recollecting this is because it was so intertwined, I'm not exactly sure in the sequence in which they actually showed the movie.
yeah,
So I agree. It was good that they kept switching. It kind of worked, I think,
yeah,
overall. And it made the story more engaging and interesting. We were obviously able to follow it because we had read the book, but I
yeah,
wonder what someone who has no idea would think about it because you're telling six stories in like 2 or 3 hours.
yeah, yeah. And I did feel like it was different enough,
Yeah.
right, between the book and movie. Like I feel like the themes and like general ideas from each chapter was there. But like there was like interesting changes throughout. Um, so I thought that was pretty cool. Um, I think the other thing that's really hard with this book is that the characters have a lot of inner monologue, and like just in movies that's hard. Like most movies just skip that, and they did here too. So like a lot of the a lot of like that context is missing, um, as you see characters like experiencing different things or going through different events.
Yeah, what do you think about the context for the uh the Adam Ewing story? The reason I ask is that story within the whole felt like the most condensed and least screen time in the
Yeah,
movie. And that one, I think the motivation wasn't really clear. Like it just started with with Adam meeting Dr. Goose, who's digging something. I'm not exactly sure what he's digging up.
No.
Uh, then there's a scene where I think he's with his wife and boss or something. Then he gets a task. He goes to this island. They get on a boat. And then it's like he's just sick for most of it, and at the end they resolve it.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, there's they show slavery in there with Otua. Um, that specifically was they cut out a lot of the dialogue, not dialogue, but the story of um I think it was the
Yeah.
Moriori people and like the battle they had with another tribe, slavery, etc. It was
Yeah.
all condensed into just like a scene or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that entire section of the story was completely removed. And like I feel like that's okay because it had really had no impact on the story. Right? Like he just goes somewhere and hears someone else tell the story, like those details. And it wasn't super important to the story. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Um, I would say overall that might have been my favorite, like sorry, my least favorite storyline anyway. So I have no issue with it getting the least amount of screen
Hmm.
time because I'm like, okay, like as you said, the guy's just sick. I'm like, okay, like that's fine. He's dying. There's not a lot to the story,
Yeah,
so I'm like, okay, that's fine.
I think I guess it worked because they removed a lot of the background just to get Otua onto the boat.
Yeah,
Once he's on the boat, that's like the real story. And the interesting thing was in the movie, they made a choice not to uh, look at the sickness progressing. It was like immediately evident why he was sick and
yeah,
the who was causing that. So
yeah.
that angle kind of worked because uh, Tom Hanks super creepy. I mean that as a compliment as an actor.
In this role, yeah,
So good.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I thought I was fine with it. As I said, my least favorite storyline. So,
Okay,
but
if we stick to that storyline for a moment,
yeah.
uh, I'm gonna bring up a topic that's not everyday conversation. So there was a part in the story toward the end where Adam goes back home and he meets his wife.
Hmm.
So his wife, let me confirm this before I say something wrong. Okay, so his wife is Tilda Ewing, according to this Wikipedia article on Cloud Atlas, the film. And it's played by Duna Bai, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, who is the Korean actor who plays Sonmi in the Sonmi
Yeah, so that was
story.
an interesting choice.
So we had a chat about this. Um, they basically they do quote unquote white face makeup, right? They change her eye color, I think, using contacts, and then the skin is like white. So I didn't notice at first, and then we talked about it, and we're like, she looks kind of Asian, like she has the Asian characteristics. And then I was looking closely, I was like, they are playing different roles in each of these stories. That must be Sanmi. So yeah, that's a topic I'm not gonna go too deep into, but I was surprised that I was watching a movie from 2012 that had whiteface, and the question is it okay? Obviously, I don't want you to, you know, you don't have to pick a position, but I
Um,
think it's an interesting question.
like I think doing it in a movie is a little bit different than, um, at least I see it a little bit different than like someone just doing it for fun or whatever, right? Because you're usually trying to like portray something, and
Mhm.
like in this movie specifically, um, that I imagine the goal or what they're trying to get across. and like how I mostly thought about it is they're reusing characters on purpose
Yeah.
to have to like deepen the connections between stories. So they want to have the same actors in each story to kind of convey that, right? To be like, oh, these are actually all connected, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that was I see why they're doing it, but also still kind of strange given like the timeline the story takes place, right?
Okay. So I'll say a couple of things. So yeah, in the movie, we have a cast of characters who play different roles in each of the stories. They're playing different races, ethnicities. It's kind of a common theme. So that's like from the movie side, that's a choice by the movie people. Will you really reuse the same cast for multiple roles? The book, um, very loosely was involving the theme of people being connected. So in the book, there was, a lot of people had the same tattoo, or the Cloud Atlas sextet that Robert Frobisher wrote was discovered by Louisa Ray in the 70s in California. So there was a connection of like people being connected. One example is, Sonmi and the guy who is Heiju Chang, apparently. Um, they were in love, or like
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the same two actors were Adam Ewing and his wife. So they too were in love. So there was white face on one side, and I don't know if you want to call it Asian face or whatever you want to say. Um, so I don't know. I'm not saying it was good or bad, but I can see the parallels of those are
Yeah,
basically the
yeah.
the, the three things that I would assume they considered. Um, I thought it was interesting because I haven't seen another movie where you can do that. And like I feel like I never heard about this until we saw the movie,
Yeah,
and this was
same.
13 years ago. So I wonder, was it a big
Well,
deal at the time?
I don't like to call out on that being 13 years ago, but
Like 13 dog years, you know?
yeah, yeah.
We're not that old.
Um, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting choice.
Yeah, so I guess we can put a lid on that topic. So the decision to make some actors look like different ethnicities with physical characteristics was a choice in the movie. And I don't know, maybe that's a discussion for another time. I don't know. I don't really want to go into is it okay or not okay because I don't have much to say on it. It was just a surprise for me. Like I'm not expecting to see this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's good to leave it at surprise and leave it open for discussion later.
Sounds good. Um, so given the fact that the movie was trying to like deepen the connection
Yeah.
between the storylines, or maybe it was truly all there. That's what the movie actually got me thinking. Like I feel like maybe I missed something in
Hmm.
the book, and like maybe these characters were more similar than I thought. Maybe I gotta give the author more credit. Like maybe I missed something in there. Around those lines. Like, did you find like the characters had similar personality traits? Were they behaving in any way? They're like, oh, that's just like that other guy. Because like I didn't really pick up on much of that, but
No.
I don't know.
All I
My
was focusing on was uh did I read this? Did this
yeah,
happen
me
in the
too.
book?
Me too.
And I was like, "Oh, so they cut that part out."
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
did he do that in the book? Uh so I don't know, looking back on it, let's okay, let's pick a character or let's pick an actor. So let's say Tom Hanks, right? Story one, he's Dr. Henry Goose,
Hmm.
the villain,
Yep.
poisoning our our guy Adam. The second one, he is the hotel manager. He 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 like takes a bribe from Frobisher so Frobisher can stay in his room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's that's two that's a similarity there. Like not very I don't know what the word is. One's trying to kill a guy, the other one's just trying to make money,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out what the like,
But
unsavory
like,
types.
but like in the book, that the hotel guy's not really. He's like whatever,
Yeah,
Like to
it's
me, he wasn't like an important character.
yeah. Okay, so then important characters. Tom Hanks was Isaac Sachs. Who is that? I don't remember.
Which storyline?
The Louisa Ray?
Oh,
Oh, was he the
the other
scientist?
scientist. Yeah, the other
Oh.
scientist.
So there he was portrayed as a good guy.
Yeah.
And then in the Cavendish story, I don't know who he was. He was
But
Dermot
like,
Hoggins.
were there like big similarities you noticed between the main characters? Like, uh, did you find like Adam had similar traits to like Louisa Ray?
Oh, the
And
main
like,
characters. So we got
yeah,
Adam, we got Adam, we got Frobisher, Louisa Ray, Timothy, Sonmi, and Zachary. Nothing stands out to me. Um, I guess they have all been like unfairly put in a situation, except Frobisher, I would argue.
yeah,
I think he put
the
himself in that
situation was very
situation.
fair. Yeah. um. So I don't know, maybe like Adam Ewing and Louis Bray both like went against the norms of like maybe what a normal person would do in their situation. Maybe like I feel like I'm reaching here.
But what did Adam do?
He didn't narc on Otua
Oh, right, right, right.
when he came in. He like hooked up your boy,
That's true.
and Louisa Ray truly did risk her life for the story.
That is true.
So like, but like Frobisher did nothing of the sort.
He was like a hot
He's a bit of
mess.
a scumbag. Yeah.
The Frobisher story, it was hilarious until it wasn't at the end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like the first half of that story was amazing. Second half just took a downward turn. Okay, so on that topic, I would say like Sonmi and have a good similarity. They're after the truth,
Mm, okay, okay. That's interesting. That's interesting.
whereas Louisa got the truth. Sonmi was, you know, it didn't happen
Yeah,
the way she wanted.
yeah.
But TBH,
Um,
I don't know. There's nothing that stands out to me.
um, I'm like getting some notes here. Um,
Well, okay, let's pick Zachary.
yeah, my favorite.
Zachary. I think Zachary was better in the book because he had more of an arc. Like he developed as a character from a scared kid to
100%. Like
getting that bribe.
I felt like in the book I could like vibe with Zachary. Like I knew why he was making the decisions he was making.
Yeah, you were
Where
like, yeah,
in the movie it was just like happening. I'm like, his motives aren't like super clear, and like the events on that one were not super clear. Like,
yeah,
um, especially because like truly that story in the book made a lot more sense to me because like you know it's a post-apocalyptic world, and you have that foundation because you've read the other six books, so you know it's just incrementing in time. The fact that it's regressed so much, you get like, okay, so something happened. So you have all that context before you go into it, where like in the movie you have like almost no context because the other stories haven't finished, so you're not sure where it's going.
The movie, though, made a good decision to establish, people on the island and then the future super high technology people.
Mm-hmm.
They made some creative choices of implying there was a nuclear fallout. So they
Yeah,
established that part pretty quickly.
yeah,
In the book, although we knew it was in the future, I think we assumed it was some kind of fallout, but if you read the story, it wasn't very clear. It could have been
yeah.
set in the
It
past.
didn't explicitly state it there.
Yeah. Old Georgie,
Yeah,
great in the book and great in the movie.
I agree. I agree. But like, okay, so tell me if I'm crazy. I feel like in the movie they're trying to make connections between old Georgie and the doctor and the Adam story.
Oh,
But like that's not something I picked up on at all. But I don't know if that was intentional just because like they're cutting back and forth between those pieces. I'm like, oh, are they, implying something here? I don't know.
I didn't get that vibe, but I did feel like in the Adam story, the doctor's trying to, kill Adam through poison to get his treasure chest.
Yeah,
In this one with Zachary, old Georgie's his I guess the devil on his shoulder,
yeah,
the kind of untrusting, do it for you voice. They're both villains. I don't know if I would say they're the exact same thing, but the old Georgie to me was just like a standalone, you know, you got to do this for you, bro. Like you can't trust this person. Who is she?
yeah, yeah. I agree. It's like it's like, oh, this is an outsider, right? You can't trust the outsider. Like you don't know what her motives are. She could be lying and all that kind of stuff.
But
Um,
old Georgie is the reason that Adam didn't save his dad and brother. Or
that's true.
it's the reason he justified his cowardice.
But like you could also say it's the only reason he's still alive, right? They're
I,
like
yeah,
outnumbered and outgunned. We've seen like the strength and numbers of those other guys. I'm just like, honestly, like I hate to say it, I feel like he made the right call by not getting involved, especially because he was still a child at that point, right? He was like 13
in the book, but in the
in the
movie,
book.
he was a grown man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you know, if I was in that situation, I would probably do the same thing because,
I
yeah,
wouldn't be
it's,
happy about it, but like
yeah, old Georgie. I guess he
great,
can blame
great
old
character.
Georgie.
That's no problem.
And but the
Um,
the villain, the tattooed or painted guy, Hugh Grant, awesome. That was Hugh Grant.
yeah, really, really made me feel that character.
Yeah,
Uh, just
scary.
because like in the book, it's just like, oh, they're just like savages or like whatever. They're just like the enemy, right?
Yeah.
You don't hear too much about them, but like actually seeing the character in the movie, I feel like made it so much better.
Yeah, they made in the book, I think they were called the Kona people.
Hmm.
The author wrote them as like more kind of primitive. Um, don't get in their way. They will kill you kind of thing. And
Yeah,
that whole vibe was way quickly established in the movies, just with the way that the faces were painted, the riding on the horse,
yeah.
the look. It was intense.
Um, so I'm thinking about the storylines. Hear me
Okay.
out.
Okay.
The Frobisher one kind of sticks out. Like I can't connect that to anything else, right? Or maybe I just wasn't paying enough close enough attention and focusing on the wrong parts of that story. But like I feel like in all of them, you see the main character fighting against some larger thing,
Hmm.
right? It's not in a very grandiose way. So for like um, in the Adam Ewing story, he's somewhat fighting against slavery. Like towards the end more
Right.
so, but like at the beginning, he just chooses not to rat out your boy,
Yeah,
right?
boy. Yeah.
So like I'm not saying that's a grandiose like he's like we need to end slavery, but at least he's not immediately condemning the guy,
Hmm.
right? Louisa Ray, she's fighting against corruption
Yep.
or something vaguely, right? Corporate corruptions.
Yep.
Somni, like that, fighting against a lot of stuff, like
The whole world.
structural um, stuff. Cavendish,
Uh,
uh, I don't
he's
know.
Cavendish is like Frobisher, but it went well for him.
Yeah, he's just like fighting for his life.
Well, he gets in prison, right?
Yeah,
He puts himself in that situation. It's hilarious that his brother puts him in
yeah.
there.
And then Zachary, like larger societal thing he's fighting. He's just like fighting the
He's
enemy, like the income, like the entity of evil, and like fighting his own demons, kind of.
well
So
that
I don't
and
know.
the like real life just trying to survive.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like maybe I'm grasping here because like I can't connect the Frobisher story to anything.
Well, let's figure that out. So Frobisher, well, first of all, in the movie, they
Yeah.
made him gay.
Hmm.
In the book, there was like a small mention that he was
Hmm.
bisexual. I guess it was implied because he was writing letters to Sixsmith.
Yeah.
Um, in the beginning, I just thought, man, these guys are just like really great friends.
Yeah, me
He's
too. Honestly, me too. I was like, oh, cool. He's got a pen pal.
yeah, he's like, this guy sends him money when he needs.
No, like what a bro.
Yeah. So yeah, and okay, so Frobisher's story is basically he
He's a
he
broke
wants to be
musician.
an amazing composer.
Yeah,
And he finds out this guy, Vivian Ayers, who's a great composer.
yeah.
He needs a guy to write his stuff for him. So then he
But
goes,
but but
yeah,
I'm gonna stop. I truly felt like his intentions in the book were initially malicious, right? In the
yeah,
sense I was like, oh, I'm gonna go scam this guy out of his thing, right?
uh-huh.
It's like, oh, he's just some like decrepit old man. I'm gonna weasel my way in here. I'll get free board and
That's
I'll
true.
figure the rest out. Like that's the impression. Like not super malicious, but I feel like he was like, he's like,
Like, bro, I'm gonna be great. I just gotta like convince this guy to let me stay.
no,
That's true. That happened quickly in the movie. I'm not
yeah,
exactly sure. Once he got there, in the movie, it seemed more like he was screwed over by Vivian
yeah,
Ayers, but in the book, it was like he was trying to screw over Vivian Ayers.
yeah, yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting that it changed that. Like I feel like his story also didn't get a lot of airtime in the movie. Um, to be fair, like his story in the book was also not super deep, but I felt it was quite action filled.
Hmm. Well, and they removed Vivian's daughter from
Yeah,
the movie.
completely. Yeah,
And speaking of changing ethnicities, they they made Halle Berry white, I think. Yeah, she was Jocasta Ayers.
how did I miss that? Okay, okay.
And okay, so okay, I think we talked about this when we were watching the movie. In the book, does he shoot and kill Ayers?
I don't think so.
I think there was a gun maybe, and he like just took it or something.
Mm,
Or was there even a gun? I can't remember. Let's
I
find
can't
out.
like
Okay.
the the nice thing was like yeah, a lot of those scenes made me truly go like, did I just glance past this when I was
Yeah,
reading this? Did I just like miss a giant section of this?
I don't know, but I mean, it's justified why in the movie they justified why he would commit suicide at the end
Yeah.
because
Um,
he he knew if he takes credit for his work, he won't get another job because Vivian's gonna screw him over.
right.
So being the guy that he is, he's like, well, let me just finish this off and then peace.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was sad.
Um, it was, but like the story felt quite different than the book because like in the book, at least it focuses so much on Frobisher like hooking up with Vivian's wife,
Yep.
right? Where it's just like a
Jocasta.
yeah, it's just like a afterthought in the movie. At least it felt like, right? But it was like a very reoccurring theme. So it's just like, okay, so like clearly something's building between this guy and his wife. So like the fact that Vivian strikes back against them, I'm just like honestly like justified, right?
Then
Like
then then he's like, what about the daughter though?
exactly. The man is a fiend.
Oh my God. He was
Yeah.
a wild guy. In the book, yeah, he definitely unraveled with more steps. So it felt like it was funny reading the first half, and then it
Yeah.
just got
Yeah.
more and more sad reading the second half.
Exactly. Exactly.
In the movie, it was just like he just got screwed over and made a quick decision. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the as a story, I like the book because it
Yeah.
had more of an arc. But in the context of the movie, I guess it works.
Yeah. Like um to be honest, in the movie it kind of just makes um Vivian seem more of a dick.
Yeah.
So it's just like I'm just being malicious against you because I can, or like uh, in the book, it's at least it didn't feel that way to me. I was like, honestly, this guy
Yeah.
should hate. He should hate Frobisher, Frobisher,
Yep.
Frobisher, Frobisher. Oh my god, I can't even say his name
Frobisher.
anymore.
Yep.
So,
And he did get killed in the movie.
yeah. So I guess also that's a little bit more understandable
Yeah.
in the movie. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's true. Because if he didn't kill himself, he would have been caught and sent to jail anyway. So he decided I'd rather die having written my greatest work than live, be thrown in jail, and be known as the composer who went to jail and also killed his mentor.
yeah, yeah.
Damn, that's heavy. I
Uh,
didn't think about it that much.
and yeah, like I guess like that truly the stories in the movie were to me pitted a lot more like good versus evil. It's like, oh, for sure this guy's evil, for sure this guy's good. Where in the book, like, I don't know, they're both kind of shitty. So and like that I guess it was a little bit more of that maybe across the board, right? Like in the movie and the Adam Ewing story, the
Mhm.
doctor definitely felt more evil in the movie,
Yeah. I didn't
right?
see him as it was a surprise for me in the book that he was being poisoned. I
Yeah,
mean, we were
yeah,
suspecting that he was on cocaine,
yeah.
not a poison.
Um, except maybe Cavendish story. Was there even in the movie? Like, there's no true
Well,
evil.
in the
Maybe
movie, the villain is personified by Hugo
the,
Weaving's character, the nurse, Nurse
the
Noakes.
nurse. Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
But the villain is imprisonment, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
That's fair. You're wrongful imprisonment at that too. So
we
like,
were
yeah, I
put
guess you
here,
can.
you know, we're not just useless people. Like
Yeah.
we want to get out of here and live our lives. The
Um.
I
Mhm,
the scene in the Cavendish story when they're at the bar and the one guy causes a riot with the patrons of the bar. Um, I really enjoyed that in the book, and I feel like it didn't translate exactly in the movie. I imagined it happening quicker in the movie before I saw the movie
I see. I see.
because the what I remember is in the book that man doesn't talk very much, and like
Mm,
he talked at that instant,
right. Right.
but in the
Right.
movie he talked a little bit
Right. Right. So it was more impactful when he did talk in the book.
because when he talked he yelled.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. Overall, what would you say in the book was your favorite storyline? And then did that change in the movie?
Okay. I'm gonna eliminate stories one by one. So Adam Ewing,
Mhm,
not my favorite. Frobisher, Dark Horse. Louisa Ray, most action-packed in the book.
mhm, mhm.
Timothy Cavendish, most like endearing and heartwarming. Sonmi was the most like weird,
Yeah, yeah,
and Zachary was also weird. So I guess the my favorite story was I would say Louisa Ray because the the setting, the characters, the action, it felt like an action thriller book. I read a lot of action thrillers, so I really enjoyed that one. It did not translate in the movie though. That wasn't my favorite in the movie. My favorite in the movie was uh, probably hard to say. I don't know if I have a favorite
hmm. In the movie,
because they're all just like I don't know. They were all kind of intermingled. I
yeah,
feel like they were equally good in their own way. Kind of like what you said at the beginning, where they interwove it so much that it felt more connected.
yeah.
Nothing really stood out as a better story than the other ones.
Um, hmm. For me, in the book, uh, Zachary Sluicious Crossing, definitely my favorite. And it might be biased just because, like, I got to read the entire story in one chapter, right, where all the other ones were split, and it's very likely I forgot them in between. So, like, I feel like there's a bit of a bias there because that one was all together, and I got the complete story. I'm like, oh right, complete story, great theme, great connection, great character motives, all that.
Mhm.
In the movie, I didn't feel that way as much in the movie, but in the movie, I guess say I kind of like the Sonmi storyline best.
It had a happy ending well, not a happy ending, but it had a happier ending in the movie.
For sure, for sure. And like I don't know, the visuals really I feel like they did a great job with the visuals for that storyline. And like I feel like maybe that like I didn't feel like they cut as much out. So like I felt like I truly got that story end to end. They get key points were there. So I felt pretty good about that one.
They did cut a lot out, but it didn't make a huge difference to the story. So,
Yeah,
as it was told in the movie, because in the book, there's a Sonmi uh grows up, quote unquote, more in the book. Like the
yeah,
first half of the
yeah.
story is her
Learning.
realizing she's, I don't know, for lack of a better word, a sentient being, learning. She gets assigned to that guy who like
Hmm.
treats her terrible,
Right, right, right.
the student. then she gets saved. Then there's like a betrayal. But the second half they kind of covered pretty good in the movie. And the part in the movie where they show the what are they called in the movie? Sonmi is a I don't know what the term is. She's not a robot, but um,
She's a clone, right?
clone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, clone. So yeah, I didn't get that. You mentioned it after we read the book. It's like, oh, she's a clone. So anyway, she's a clone, and they show at the end the clone farm, the clone butcher, whatever you want to call it, where they after a clone's useful life is over, they take them to what they expect is a better place, and they basically kill them, recycle them, and make more clones.
Yeah.
And they feed the clones.
Yeah. The old killed off ones.
That was messed up in the
That was
movie
very
and
messed
the
up.
book. In the movie, they showed it well that it was messed up. But the point in the movie, what they changed was it was less depressing because they connected Sonmi from the Sonmi story to Zachary very clearly as if it was like a godly figure or something.
Yeah.
But in the story, the conclusion was, yo, the government or whoever runs it, they planned all this. They planned for me to rebel and then make my manifesto, and then they killed me because they can say, hey, this person's evil. They made a manifesto.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was super depressing. I
Yeah.
feel like it happened too quickly. It happened in about 2 pages, but it definitely made it very depressing. So
I
in
agree.
that
I agree.
sense, it's similar to Frobisher because they both ended very depressing.
Mm.
And she also died, I think.
Most likely, yeah. I think I don't know if they specifically called it out, but like I feel like that was the implication, right? It's like these are
Yeah.
your final days. Yeah, I guess they're both truly just struggling.
That's gonna be it's gonna be an option in the future in real life. If someone is sentenced to death, maybe they'll get a last meal and a last podcast.
Cursed.
Cursed.
um, hmm. I feel like I gotta be missing something still about the Frobisher story and the Cavendish story.
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about Cavendish. So Cavendish, okay, in the movie, Tom Hanks also amazing as the author that throws the other guy off the balcony. The author
Hmm.
throws the critic off the balcony. Uh, I think they established that well in the movie. That's kind of how it was described in the book.
Hmm.
In the movie, the brothers show up a lot quicker than the book. The brothers
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
author.
yeah.
So essentially, there's Cavendish is a publisher. He has an author who wrote a book called Knuckle Sandwich. The author kills a guy, goes to jail. The book becomes popular. He becomes rich. Cavendish becomes rich as a publisher. Then the author's brothers come and demand money, even though it's legally supposed to stay with
Hmm.
Cavendish. Cavendish calls his brother. The brother sends him to a safe place. And that's how he ends up in the retirement home. And that's when the
Right,
story
right.
kind of begins. Uh, but in the book, that story began with him like getting beat up by teenage girls, I think.
Yeah, which was interesting, but I guess
Yeah.
just like speaks to how frail and old he was.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the Cavendish story was basically like he just wants to get out.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like there'll be something there because, like, I feel like at least all of the other ones are like fighting something big, some like true evil, something morally wrong.
Mhm. Well, is it morally right to send your old parents to a retirement home to live there and until they
Hmm.
don't live there anymore?
So uh, I didn't pick that like truly. At least I didn't really think too much about that until I saw the movie. In the sense that
Hmm.
like I assumed Cavendish was the only one there that was there involuntarily. I guess no, that's not true. Like it was kind of no, that's not true because other characters are fighting against that system too. So no, you make a good point, but it didn't click for me as much until I saw the movie for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure anyone was there voluntarily, but they didn't exactly make it clear whether they wanted to be there or not. It was like
Right.
I don't it was kind of like you're very restricted. You have to follow the rules that no Nurse Noakes puts to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I never thought about it. I was like, of course they want to leave. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
imagine myself. It's like I don't want to stay there. If
Yeah.
I
Who
feel like
would?
I'm fit, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So that was the most endearing story for me in the sense that I don't think anyone died, right, in that story.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, except the
No.
author at the beginning, but no, the
Yeah.
not the author,
There.
the guy that he killed.
Yeah. Um. Hmm. Yeah. Okay.
There
Fair
was
enough.
a little bit of greed mentioned there because the way they escaped is they convinced one of the
Mm,
tenant's
mm,
children that she wrote a will. So it was all about this this man and his wife just waiting for his mom or whoever it was, the
yeah.
relation, to die so they could take her money. That's pretty evil, I think. I mean, okay,
Ye-
let me step back a little bit. Is that evil? I should phrase it as a question. Um,
Yeah. Like I see what you're saying, but like I guess for me the big difference is like the other stories they're fighting against like a large evil, right? Where these Frobisher and Cavendish feels like the things they're fighting against are just affecting them. You know what I mean? Like there's no larger impact group um, type thing. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, I do know what you mean. It's a very contained story. It doesn't
Yeah,
have like social consequences. Uh, but the premise is a very common social premise.
yeah, yeah.
What do you do with people when they're
Mm,
old? Like personally, as a family.
yeah, yeah,
And why was Cavendish's brother such a dick?
yeah.
He
I
really hated
agree.
him.
Yeah, and like in the movie, it didn't seem that clear. Oh, I know. He like I think he. I don't
Oh, he
remember if that
always
happened.
asks for money or something.
And I swear to God, in the movie implied that Cavendish cheated on the brother's wife, like
Yeah,
cheated
yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah.
brother's wife.
You're right.
But I don't think that happened in the book.
I don't think so.
So interesting.
Worked though. Hugh Grant played a great upset brother, and the makeup they did on him, amazing.
Like I for like every character, like I
Yeah.
feel like that their set work was pretty on point
Yeah.
across the board. Um, how do you feel about the book as a whole? Like now that just the book on its own, like you read the book end to end,
Okay,
how do you
reading
feel
it
about
was up and down. Like reading Adam's story was really boring the first
it? Hmm.
half of it. Even Frobisher was mostly boring until, he started being promiscuous, I guess. Half-Lives was great. Uh, Cavendish was great. Sonmi was great. The there's so many apostrophes in Zachary. I didn't really enjoy the apostrophes. So yeah, reading was up and down. Like story wise, some parts were exciting, very fast, some was very slow. And the actual reading experience was up and down. But having
Yeah,
read the book already, discussing the story, it's cool because there's so much to dig into. I don't think we could get into every single possible topic of conversation.
yeah, yeah.
Although I like you, I was disappointed that there wasn't like an overarching, very clear connected theme in the book.
Like maybe there is, and our brains are just too small. Like that possibility exists.
I mean, if I can't figure it out, maybe I'm just dumb.
Like I'm not above
We certainly are below that.
that. um, yeah, I agree. I agree. I definitely felt like there were stories that were more fleshed out and like were more important to like the rest of the story. And like the whole thing where like the connections between storylines, some of them felt much stronger. Like seeing the Sunmi story become like her become quote unquote God in the Zachary. So I was like, what?
Yeah,
That's wild. I'm like, yes, that's the kind of connection I'm looking for between these stories. Finally, the payoff was so good
that's true.
there. So like, as a whole, I would say I liked it. I thought it was a good book. Like, it was a fun read, and like I wasn't sure how I would feel about the fact that it was like six different stories, but every story was like even on its own was very solid.
Yeah, it was good. It's a lot to think about. I like that I could come back to this in the future and reread it, and I still would be confused.
Yeah,
There's
but like
something
in a good
about,
way.
yeah, there's something about stories where like you understand maybe 60% of it.
Hmm.
And then you read it the second time, you're like, oh. So I think maybe we're just dumb the first time. But if we ever read this the second time, we'll be average.
Right, right. I like that. I like that.
But the third time will be even dumber than the first time. Because that's how it works. You understand, then you read it again, you're like, I have no idea.
I thought I got it, but I was just making it up last time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, good book, good movie. I would watch the movie again. Very trippy experience. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I kind of wish. I don't know. I wish I could see the movie without reading the book. I don't think I would enjoy it
Have
because
you
I
seen any other movies that are like that?
not really, not with this many storylines. Like you, like anything I've seen that could even be remotely similar would be like two storylines, right? It's like there's a
Like a
past and a
past, yeah.
future, but like six storylines weaving them together, like I feel like given the story they had to work with, they did a great job.
Fantastic job.
But like
Yeah.
most of my enjoyment was me being like, oh, that's neat, right?
Mm.
So, but yeah, I feel like a lot of the movie I was just like, oh yeah, I remember reading about that. I remember, and that was like a lot of my enjoyment. So like, I don't know what going in blank would would feel like.
Yeah, unfortunately, we won't know.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to ask someone to watch the movie
And then read
and
the book.
and then get their opinion, then force them to read the book for a year.
That's true. This did take us a full year, didn't it?
It was actually a full year of reading. Yep.
That's bad.
It's better than nothing.
That's true. That's true.